All right, business this Wednesday morning. It's never too early to start educating children about financial literacy. Studies are showing that around 80% of young adults struggle with basic financial concepts as they reach adulthood, and then they start getting into trouble with their finances. We were talking about this yesterday with Maya Fisher-French, weren't we? Now, Nedbank is using gaming to drive home the message of entrepreneurship and financial education. It's very clever. It's a game, Chow Town, that's the name of it, equips youth for a healthy financial future. It's very clever. Let's talk about the gamification of the financial future of the youngsters. Nedbank's Buli and Ndlovu making time for me this morning. Hello, Buli. Did I get that right? Is this the gamification of financial literacy? Am I on the right track here? Morning.
You're absolutely spot on. Good morning, Gareth. Lovely to join you.
Tell me about where the idea is coming from with this, because when we talk about the youngsters, let's go where they are, where it's the iPads, the laptops, the computers, the cell phones. Go where your audience is. I imagine that was the thinking. Tell me about the idea.
Absolutely. I mean, as a Nedbank, as a brand that is really at the forefront of, call it, digital and technological innovation, we were really aiming to disruptively transform banking, right, by leveraging digital platforms and really offer alternative experiences to engage, to surprise, and to delight our clients. Now, to your point, we want to go fish where the fish are and go where the people are. So Roblox, we know, is an incredibly popular game amongst children aged between 9 to say 12 years old. And it's exactly the most suitable age to start learning about, one, entrepreneurship, but also to start learning about money. So now Chow Town really did provide us a platform to be able to nurture these entrepreneurial skills and offer an educational experience for tweens in an environment that they could very much relate to. It's not your typical beating you down the stick and teaching you about money, but actually in an environment that you're already there, you're already affiliated with. I mean, it's so easy when I look at these kids and how they just jump onto this thing. It's so intuitive for them, and it was really around how we might be able to help them learn how to manage a business as well as managing money at a young age.
I mean, apart from the gamification of this, let's be honest as well, Buli, you're filling a gap that many critics are saying should actually be taught in schools, because by the time many young adults are getting out of matric and going through college or TVETs, universities, by the time they get into their first job, they have no idea what to do with their first paycheck. And what do? They go and they run and take out a credit card, and before you know it, they're in financial debt before they've hit 25.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the landscape of financial literacy in South Africa, we know we're faced with a complex mix, right, of challenges, but I think as well as opportunities, that really characterize the financial literacy environment that we find ourselves in. So even though, as a nation, we have made great strides and achievements in recent years in order to enhance financial education and awareness, there is still a sizable section of the population that really still struggles to understand and manage their personal finances. I mean, you make the example of you get your first job and the first thing you blow it, right? And we see TV series that cover things like that. So I think the future financial stability of South Africa is significantly impacted by this lack of financial literacy, which also then contributes, to problems like excessive household debt, little savings, or people even getting to retirement with no savings or investments made, in terms of their poor retirement planning. And so collectively, these elements reduce social mobility, it increases, this notion of inequality, and it really does constrict the potential for total economic growth in the country. And in order to enable people to make informed financial decisions, addressing these issues through financial education programs like what we've created with Chow Town by Nedbank is really one of the ways that we're trying to play our part.
So while you're playing your part, I can imagine there's many parents or caregivers, perhaps even youngsters watching this morning, who quite enjoy their gaming, or maybe they do want to know a bit more about financial education. So when you say it's Chow Town, it's the game, where are we finding this? I'm guessing we're going to start sending people to the various app stores. And if that's the case, what do you actually see when you get into the app for the first time? What kind of basic financial knowledge do you need?
So you go to your point, you go to any of the app stores, whether it's Android or iOS, you download Roblox. That's kind of your first entry point. Once you get onto Roblox, you search Chow Town by Nedbank, and you really start, you get into the game. Chow Town by Nedbank is really a game that it's about running a restaurant, so you've got different choices. It's a tycoon game model
Right.
that's really tailored to allow players to set up and expand a startup restaurant through incremental investments. And so you start, getting money, selling, buying stock, things like that, and really starting to learn those financial principles. And as I mentioned earlier, because the game itself is so intuitive, especially for the young ones, they immediately start understanding these principles to say, if I've got 10 Robux, how much does it get me? Or how much do I need to sell to make a profit? And so you start teaching those principles within that environment.
I can't help but think as well, the kids are going to learn about this on the app, but then also maybe teach the adults a thing or two about savings and planning for retirement. Because what 25-year-old is thinking about retirement, Buli as
Right.
well, I think no one actually thinks that far down. And I suppose this is also when I've discussed gaming for children with ADD in the past, for example, as well. It's all got to do with the delayed gratification. It's almost the opposite of what gaming is supposed to do, that instant gratification, that instant hit. An app like this, I imagine, is more about teaching you delayed gratification. Just because you have the money now doesn't mean you have to
Yeah.
spend it. I imagine that's what you're trying to get across.
Absolutely. I mean, the two important points that I want to zone in on that you've just mentioned. One, I would absolutely encourage parents to jump in and play with the kids, right? Because what we are seeing is, I mean, this has been statistically proven. When children learn about how to manage money better, the likelihood of them carrying those good money habits into their adulthood is very high. Now, we know a lot of us in our generation, and I say that quite loosely, have made some pretty hectic money mistakes along the way, right? And so we're wanting to catch them at a young age, start them young so that they carry those good money habits. But parents can also learn. It's never too late. It's never too late to start learning, savings principles around investments and saving for retirement. And you're right, what 25-year-old is thinking about retirement? But before you know it, you're 60 and, it's staring you in the face and you've got nothing.
Yeah.
And so really this gamified approach not only makes learning about finance and entrepreneurship enjoyable, but it does also encourage critical thinking and problem solving, as players start to strategize around, how to succeed within the game's economic system. And there are really important lessons that can be learned whilst, in terms of how you might apply them to real world problems, actually, and thereby equipping young players with valuable skills that can positively impact their financial future.
Yeah.